Okay, so we're starting the recording, and what we're going to do first is talk about, just covering the FUD really quickly. I know some of you watch other influencers, and some of you have said that you've stopped looking at Twitter completely, which is good. We don't want to have too many people. I would never tell you just to watch me. I would never say that to you, because there are good people out there to watch, and I'm one of the smaller accounts. There's plenty of big accounts, plenty of medium size, plenty of small accounts that are, very good at what they do. But I would just say limit how many people you listen to, because you don't want to have so many options or so many opinions that you just confuse yourself, right? So find somebody that you trust, find somebody that you respect, that has made good calls before, of course. And, you don't have to blindly trust somebody, of course. You need to determine things based on your own intuition or based on history, or, use some kind of metric like that. So what I do is I use history a lot, of course. And if we go back, we'll just make this really briefly. That was kind of a stupid way to say that. We'll make this really brief. So initially, so far this has been exactly correct. I'm not saying it will continue to be, but initially we talked about, okay, based on history, this pumped into the full moon while the alts were coming down. The new moon had another dip, although it was kind of flat at the time. The question right now, of course, is, do we hold at, I was looking at this. This is a Bitcoin chart, so we have to look at this right here. So there is a lower high, or a lower low, sorry, right here at, 92,000. We can bring up the candles and look at the wicks as well, but I'm just looking at the wick here is down to 91.3. So this is a very important level, definitely. We wouldn't want to see this lost, because then we would be looking at, our last wick in this area was, 85K or something. So my best guess anyway, based on history, was that we might see like an 88K average bottom. So, we could see some kind of sweep down or something. I don't know. Maybe we'll hold here. But from what I'm seeing, I see a lot of people this morning talking about, the market's over. That's exactly what you want to see to know that the bottom is near. I'm not saying that today is the bottom. It could still create another bottom. But if we go back to, I just want to calm some fears here mostly. But if we go back to right here, this is the one that I've talked about many times. And let me just turn off this is a full moon, new moon type thing, indicator that I was showing there. And this looks very similar to me. The only thing is the angles at which these patterns show up. And let me make sure that, okay, you can see what I'm seeing. The angle that these patterns show up can confuse, when you're looking at them. So basically this angle was kind of like this. It does look like a head and shoulders. There is a fake out before a further move up. So I see people talking about, the bull market's over. But, what happened here then? Was the bull market over here? Was it over here? At what point are you saying that it is definitely over? How do you, let me get rid of a couple things here. How do you determine that it's over? Because here's the ultimate test if it's over. Are there higher highs and higher lows? From a macro perspective, higher high, higher low, higher high, we don't know where the higher low is here yet. It could be here, could be here. I'm not ruling out that it couldn't come down to 75K. It could, but we've never seen in a macro bull market at this point, at this stage in the game, we've never seen it come back and retest a play or like a breakout like this that lasted a long time. So remember, if you got a lot of consolidation, which this happened from, we called this exact top, by the way. We were already having cash on the side for this top right here, which we've done on this one as well. Remember, we were talking about the top being in around December 10th. So you've been ahead of the game every step of the way with us. And just remember that we have a lot of experience. I'm not going to be right every time. Tatiana and Rod are not going to be right every time. But we are in agreement that the bull market is still going. So are all three of us right? Are all three of us wrong? We won't know for a couple of months. But I do believe that this looks like a bull flag, number one. Maybe there is a bull flag forming here. I don't know how else we could draw it. This is still pretty early, but something like that. You could even move this up a bit. But that doesn't mean that this has to keep going in here, It doesn't have to keep playing out and, until February and then break out. I mean, this thing could break out at any time, and it could break down temporarily too. But the thing that you have to take into account is what the market makers do is they feed, or the market feeds off of fear and greed. So you got something pumping really hard, it looks like this when it's pumping. People are just thinking it's going forever, just like it did in 2021 right here. Bitcoin does this a lot where it breaks above, there's like a head here. It breaks above and then it gets back below. And that would be, something like that definitely is on a macro scale, something to pay attention to. So if you would have seen something like this where it popped up, got below, rejected, then yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something to pay attention to. And there was a fake out right here. I would not say that there's anything here yet though. This is still like a head, if you want to call it. But there's no indication here that this is a top. You have to have a level that you're looking at and say, okay, is this the point at which I'm just going to say, okay, the market's done? There's nothing here to indicate that yet. Even back here, you wouldn't have really known until this lower high right here, or at least this one. So market structure is very important. Who you listen to is very important. Make sure they have a good track record. Make sure, like Pizzino, I've lost a lot of respect for Michael, and what's his brother's name? Michael Pizzino. I'm just going to show you what it looks like when somebody is trying to, it's Michael or whatever his brother's name. So look at the YouTube headlines or the YouTube title that they're using on you. I mean, they're just manipulating your emotions. That's all it is. Quote unquote, I'm done. This is my signal to exit. Quote unquote, I'm out. Trap signal. I mean, this is a business for them. They're going to use these words, these words to trick your mind into thinking, oh, I've got to click this. I got to find out. I mean, you could even watch, a video from yesterday that he did, and he could, post something completely different the next day, and it's the wording that gets you to click. It has nothing to do with his content, because basically he's just saying the same thing every day because he doesn't know either. We can only really determine what's going to happen based on historical context. Nobody knows what's going to happen short term, so just be aware of that. And let's move on from that, because I think it is important you understand that you can't just blindly trust these people that say, oh, the market's done. And I would never say to blindly trust me either. And Tab and Rod would say the same thing. Okay, so let's see. I know most of you are here for the Degen stuff, so let's just see if we can. And for those that are watching, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I do want to get into some of the long-term play things, but I want to do the Degen stuff first. So what I may do is I might end this video when we're done with it and start a new recording for the long-term stuff. We'll see. Okay, where are we at? I think let's start. Well, let's just see if there's any like brand new play. I think we want to look at something that's in real time. So that's 39 minutes ago. Okay, here we go, 8 minutes ago. That's not too bad. And I might use the CA alert bot instead here in a minute, but we'll see. So for anybody that's new to this, what I do is I go to gmgn.ai. So gmgn.ai. And when I get here, I paste the contract address in. And now we're looking at that token I was just looking at. So first, when it pops up, you're going to be on the 1 hour chart. You're going to have to go down to the 1 minute. And let me get this off of there. So here we're looking at the MACD. And I'll just briefly go over this because we've talked about it before. Number one, probably the first thing you want to do, of course, is to look at the, where's it at, TrenchBot. So click on the TrenchBot link. Let's just see really quick, and I'll give you some brief ideas on what you're looking for. Well, number one, they already sold everything. What the bundler is when somebody uses a bot that's a token creator, or a dev if you want to call them that, and they snipe their own supply before the snipers can. So what they're trying to do is hide the activity by spreading it across a bunch of different wallets, And then once price reaches a level that they're ready to take their profits, then they just sell everything they have, or maybe they just sell it slowly. But this person's already sold. There was 2 bundles, which could be multiple wallets. It's not just 2 wallets. And looks like they spent 28 sols. So that's not a very high number. If you look back here at some of our results that we tracked at the very beginning when we were doing this bot, there is definitely a relationship between how much SOL is bundled, how much SOL is spent by the token creator versus how much market cap it can reach. So just imagine that the more SOL that is spent by that dev, the lower the ceiling is on the market cap. At least that's what I've seen. So here's just a couple of extreme examples. You've got 26 bundles and 110 SOL was spent to snipe their own supply on a token named Kevin. It made it to 4.7 million. And I don't remember, I looked a couple of weeks later just to see if it went higher, but I think it just went pretty much down after that. And then you've got something like our, where's Swarms? Okay, Swarms did like a 200x. We found it around 350K market cap on the alert. Well, actually it was a 210x. There was only 49 SOL that was spent, and it made it to 74 million. So you can see there's a little bit of a relationship there. I guess this is not, oh yeah, Pantera did get higher, I believe, on this one. This was 100x. I don't know how we found this one at 18K market cap. I'm gonna try to get the CA alert bot to do things like that in the future again, but I think this was just Moni that found that. So I don't think Degen wallets had anything to do with it. So we wanna use smart money and socials, of course. It helps us to use both of them. But you can see there's a little bit of a relationship there. 168 SOL spent, it only made it to 2 million on this one. All right, where are we at? What was that, IOS? Okay, so IOS, what you wanna look for just in general, let's say that you missed the first pump and this one got to what, 6 to 7 million. And that's a really good first pump. I mean, that can give you an idea if it's gonna have more, pumpamentals. I've used that word before, it's a funny word to use. But during the last bull run, that was a word a lot of people used. It was a buzzword. But that's what you want to look for, is something that has a really nice move out of the gate. And if you miss this, it's fine. I'm going to show you here. You just grab your fib tool on the left. You go down here at the very bottom, which I'm pretty close to it. And then you pull up to, so I'm clicking at the bottom and I'm going up to this wick, or you can find 2 different wicks that connect there. That's fine too. And what you're looking for is a touch of the 786 line here, which is the blue line for me. And this should be standard on GMGN. The thing to note here is that with a brand new token, we don't know how high it can pump on the second move. There are situations where it just comes up and it can't get back above this high, but you can still take advantage of it, right? I mean, you could have bought here and taken a quick profit. You could have bought here and now you're in profit again. So the 786 line, sometimes it holds it, sometimes it'll go below it. I mean, let's say if it did get below it, the way to play this is just wait for it to get back above usually. That would be a safer play, because sometimes these just keep going down, right? If it was to lose 786, maybe it just bleeds all the way down and never comes back. But remember, we want to take advantage of the MACD and reading it. And so currently on the 1 minute, well, I'll say one more thing about the MACD. It's not going to show up for you initially, on the 1 minute chart. You may have to go down to a 30-second. Well, close. So notice here on the 30-second, the 2 lines are clearly downtrending. So you wouldn't have entered this one in this case. In fact, it would have saved you. When did this alert come in? 12 minutes. So that was 10:38. That's one thing I need to do, is verify where that was. Okay, so it actually found the bottom for you, maybe. Yeah, right there. So this alert did a very good job. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do with these alerts. What did we use on this one? Okay, so on the high conviction alert, this is really what we're trying to accomplish, and I've seen it work multiple times. So what we're hoping happens is the first pump happens, and then maybe socials. Was it just wallets on this one? Okay, it was just wallets. Sometimes socials will be involved too, like you see on this one. But we're looking for activity from smart money or smart followers, and that gives us additional conviction. And sometimes it'll get you in right at the bottom, and that's great because we don't want to have to, muck about with all of this here and, wait on all this to happen. We'd rather get the alert right when the bottom is taking place. I'm not saying it's going to happen every time, and I'll get to your questions in a minute if you typed a message in the chat. And again, if you want to interrupt me on anything, talk in voice chat as well. So, yeah, I mean, these are not going to work every time, by the way. Like I said, it's not going to hold 786 every time. You're going to take some small losses. If you use the MACD, you're going to limit those losses a lot more. And the way we do that, of course, is we go to the highest time frame we can. And here's MACD on the 1 minute. I don't think it would show up on the 5 minute yet. No. Okay, so we got to use the 1 minute. And we can see there was a cross up right here as it was touching the 786. And it's just so happened to be when our alert kicked in as well. So you could still be holding this one right now. I mean, you could have bought at the cross. When it crosses up this midline right here, which is the line separating the red and the green candles, I call it the midline. That coincides with the 50 RSI as well. Like if we brought up the RSI here, the way that you read this is anything above the 50 is going to be bullish. And of course, if it gets above the 70 up here, it's really bullish. And then anything below here under the 50 is bearish. And so there you go. That's what this midline is here. It's basically the same as the 50 RSI line on the, on this indicator. So yeah, you'd still be holding and, sorry? Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It does do that sometimes where it just pulls back to like the 0.5 or the 0.618. It is tough in that situation. Like let's say, for example, that, I don't know that this will be a good example, but we'll look at the, right. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It does happen sometimes. But I mean, this is a 5-wave structure, basically. On Elliott wave, you got 1, 2, 3, well, maybe the fifth. Well, fifth should be in on this first move. But anyway, it's a micro 5th wave up here to the top. And sometimes you can get in on this first, this first move if the alert comes in time. And you could go ahead and do your fib on that first pull right here. And yeah, you're right. Look right there. It fell into the golden pocket. Usually that's when you're going to see that, is when it's first launched. I mean, it's like a brand new token. We haven't really seen all this take place yet. It's still within that first micro 5-wave, Elliott wave structure, creates a bull flag. And, it's going to fall somewhere between the 0.5 and 0.618. Where did that end up? 3 million. And another thing to note, of course, is if it can break 1 million very quickly when it first launches, then 1 million is where you want to watch for a support level. Of course, this one didn't come down. Looks like 1.3 was the support level on this one roughly. But you don't have to be perfect on these. Let me just see something here. Yeah, well, see, the problem with these brand new launches is your MACD doesn't show up even on a 15-second chart until, quite a bit of price action has taken place. But you saw this line trending up, so you could have gotten in somewhere, in here. I doubt you could have gotten this unless you just took the chance thinking, okay, maybe that's a top. Because really, you don't know where the top is. But, I mean, that's like a 1-2 move, kind of, unless this was the 2 move, I can't tell. Anyway, I'm just talking about Elliott wave stuff, which I don't really follow. I don't really track Elliott wave that much. But yeah, I mean, as long as the lines, these 2 lines are above the midline here, it's bullish. Once they cross below, it's bearish. And that really coincided with that big drop right there. The lines were crossing over the midline, and now they've gotten back above it, coinciding with another move up. So in theory, all of this is very simple, right? But in reality, we are emotional creatures, and if we don't trade like a robot, we're going to make mistakes. So if you're willing to practice this and stick to it, you can make a lot of money. One thing I do want to note as price continues here is once the MACD, the lines do cross above the midline, typically if this is the first cross up after, a downtrend back here, you're gonna possibly find some support here. So this could be another bull flag. And, if you wanted to pull another fib here, I guess you could. And just see, is it holding the 618? Then, maybe you're in as long as it holds the 618. Now, why that's important is because, there are structures that take a long time to get back to this level. And what I mean by that is every single fractal that you see within the price action of a token is designed to fake you out one way or the other, either fake you out down or fake you out up, because they are all very similar. So what could happen is either this one keeps going, or like it's doing right now, it does this and comes back down to the bottom. So you want to find that level at the bottom here. And let's say you took profit somewhere here. This is where you want to be buying, after some price action has taken place. Because there are situations where, let me see if I can just give you kind of a more macro feel for what this might do. I mean, this right here equals this, basically. So what I'm expecting to happen here is for this, just like this came back down, I think this will probably come back down too. Now, I wouldn't have known that in real time unless I started seeing, and you'll get more used to seeing these. I mean, think about patterns while you're trading these. And I know this is a lot more technical, but this is a rising wedge, and you've got a downtrend in your MACD. The MACD is below the midline here. So, it tells you that things are bearish currently. And if we look back at this structure, then you can see some similarities. If you just look at this versus this, and what would we expect? Well, we would hope that we could get a much better entry down here instead of risking this, because it looks like it's coming down. Yeah, I mean, I would really prefer not to look at a 15-second, but you have no choice if you're looking at a brand new token. You always want to go to the highest one. So, I've got my MACD up here. I mean, let's just say this one's been around for an hour or so. I'm going to look first at my 15-minute, or, if it's even in even older token, I look at the hour or 4-hour first. And, I'm just working my way down. There's nothing on 5-minute yet. And there we go. 1 minute is the first, the first chart that I can actually see the MACD show up on. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you just follow these rules now, I mean, I get it. There's an emotional side to it for all of us that we're thinking, oh, well, it's over the 50 line, so it's bullish, right? And yeah, it is. Couldn't this just curl up again? And sure, it could, definitely. But if you take your time and wait for the curl up, you can save yourself a lot of money. I mean, maybe this just rejects the line and starts coming down again. We don't know. But, these are things that we have to practice. And because, this is a bull flag technically. And you could draw a line and say, well, I'll just get in if it breaks above that line. But if it gets below this line, then it's clearly going to come down again, because it would be a change in structure, right? It would break a very important area of support. This is all very difficult to do in real time. But, I could be wrong too. Maybe that's not the right view. It might come up and reject here somewhere and come back down again. So it's really tough to do this in real time, but you gain a lot of experience by watching it. Maybe you don't want to put any money in, you just want to paper trade, and that's fine. Get comfortable with it first. But the good thing about it being above the 50 line here is that usually you're not going to get a big dump. You get some time to make your decision. So you can feel a little bit more comfortable if the two lines are above the midline here. But if at any point it starts getting near it, then the chances of it having a much bigger flush are real. And I'm trying to see what's going on here. Yeah, we got a cross up right there. So there isn't a chance that this thing pushes up again. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, if you just follow the rules here, you were in back here, you sold here, now you're back in, and maybe this thing just goes sideways for a bit, which makes it very much more difficult for you to make a decision, because now it's crossing up and down and you don't know whether to stay in or not. But I don't know what to tell you in that case. I guess there is one thing I could tell you. One thing you always need to be looking for is, let's say this comes down here and creates a lower high, and so now you've got a bearish divergence. So you've got a higher high in your MACD and a lower high while price is pushing up, and eventually that's going to break down because of this. So these are some things that you can watch as well. Here, let me erase this and I'll show you how you could have seen this play working out quicker. So you just want to look for, so this was a higher, what would this be? Oh, well, technically this is a lower low, and that's a higher low. So you can watch for these structures where the histogram of the MACD is starting to taper back to green, and you're also getting like a higher low, and that would be a signal to say, hey, you could get a cross up here soon. Or for example, if the histogram on the MACD, well, actually, let's go down to the 30 second and see. Yeah, so like right here, for example, this could be a lower high that's currently working out. And basically that's what we were just talking about, right, on the 1 minute. Right there, here's your higher high, here's your lower high. Same thing on the histogram, higher high, lower high. It's telling you to, it's kind of like a warning signal. Hey, watch out, this could be turning down. So you can front run some of this, and sometimes you're going to miss plays because you think that you're better than the market. Sometimes you think, oh, well, I can see this ahead of time. And that's fine. I mean, missing plays is not a problem. If you just make a small profit and then you miss a huge run, it's no big deal. I mean, we're going to get more of them. There's plenty of signals. But another thing I want to mention is watch out for a lot of wicks to the upside. If you see that, there's a lot of people taking profits in this area. And that means that it was somebody that's a whale that probably bought way down here. So, we've got demand at a support area, and we've got supply at a premium area where people aren't really willing to pay for that premium. They would rather wait for it to come down here. Remember, a lot of wicks to the upside, just like this, could mean that a top is coming in. I mean, look how it happened here. The wicks to the downside don't tend to happen as much, but you do see them sometimes. And it could indicate a buy area, buy zone. Okay, let me see if we'll keep watching this for a second, but let me see if there's anything in the chat. Are you guys, let's see, was that today, 10:37? Okay, are you guys hearing anything, or has it, oh yeah, you can hear it, okay. When you take the first pump fib, if it goes higher and breaks, let me bring this over here. Okay, when you take the first pump fib, if it goes higher and breaks all-time high, do you then restart your fib at the very first candle, or do you redo the fib only taking into account the next pump? Okay, let me make sure I understand this. Okay, so the first pump, and it goes higher. Yeah, for sure. So that is part of the problem, and that's a really good question. When you're first watching a brand new token like this, maybe this is all we see, or maybe this is what we see currently. Maybe this is all we see in the, if we go back in time. So if we pull our fib here, and we know that since this is a brand new token, it may just come down to the 0.5 or the 0.618. And it's likely not the top because the token just launched. And so if we expect it to go up some more, then yeah, you would take this. You would still keep your bottom where it's at, but you would take this, and it's really subjective. I mean, you could either connect two wicks together or take the top wick, or, I mean, if you get a massive wick like right way up here that's just random, I wouldn't take that one. But, this could be considered like a double top, even a triple top in a way. And so now we're looking at the 786. We pull it all the way across. And now we've seen here that when our alert came in right here, it was a clear, I mean, you could call it a double bottom. You could call it a higher low because it was a little bit higher than this one. So all of this indicates, as it stays near the 786 and actually gets back above it, that this looks like a really good support level for this one. And it did end up pumping for us right there. So now as price goes up, your next hurdle to get past is all of this sell pressure that happened before. I mean, you may have a big whale down here, like I said, that bought a bunch of supply. Remember, if you're buying cheap, you can get a lot more tokens at this level. And, you know, people that are buying up here paid a lot more for it. So, you know, they're trying to unload all of these tokens that they bought. And that's why you've got these wicks to the upside. And there it is right there. You reject it again. So you have to expect that. I mean, you could even draw you a line there and say, you know, this is not a good place to be buying, of course. We want to wait and see what happens here. Anyway, you know, that's some things to take into account when you're watching something in real time. If you were to get a full candle close above here, it could indicate further, you know, movement to the upside. But currently, you wouldn't really care, you know, too much about this. You do want to keep your line there and just kind of keep an eye on it. But your MACD is clearly turning up. You know, you were in way back here, and it's above the 50 line. You know, everything looks real bullish. So if you followed the rules here, you made, I mean, we can just look at the profit that you could have taken. We're just following the rules, not getting in at the exact bottom. Where did this one cross down? So just being conservative, you made about a 2x right there, and that's being very conservative. I mean, I'm not even going to the wick way up here. So it's really up to you how you set up your Telegram bot to sell for you. You know, you can set it to take your initials out at 2x, or you can, you know, hold longer. And, you know, we may have a further pump here because it had a really big move through all of this congestion right here, you know, where people were selling before. But you don't really care, because here you are on the 30-second or 1 minute, and your MACD has not had a significant cross down. You know, you have time to react. You know, just because you got this little cross down right here, you didn't necessarily have to take it. You could have waited a little bit, because remember, if price action, if the MACD has all of the lines above the 50 line here, the middle line, then it gives you more time to react. You're not going to have a big dump until it gets back below this line. And for anybody that missed that part, you know, you'll be able to watch it in the video. So yeah, I mean, this looks really good. Had you held all the way from here on the 1 minute chart, or you know, the alert came in right here, I mean, you'd be up currently 200% or so, something like that. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, Kareem, I'm just explaining. I'm not actually trading it. You know, usually when I explain this, I don't have time to trade it at the same time, because I would have to be watching it and discussing things at the same time. I don't want to be distracted by it. But yeah, I mean, I would have taken this play had I been watching it for sure. So just to be sure, your bottom starting line would still be the very first candle. Bottom starting line, first candle. I'm trying to see if I understand what you mean here. Goes higher and breaks, very first candle. Yeah, you'll have to, I guess, are you talking about right here around this first breakdown? And I'll just, okay, so you're saying, do you still use the very first candle right now that it passed all-time high? Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. So for fibs, no, you don't have to. No, in this case, I mean, you can move it later if you want, but in this case, I'd probably still keep this one. And the only reason I want the fib line here is so I can know on this dip, I want to see where the support line is, which is usually right here at the 786 after the top is in. Like I said, back here on this first move, it would have just fell to like the 0.5 or 0.618. But, you know, as long as this is holding the 786, and especially if you get a breakout of this area, so you're getting double, triple bottoms, you know, that's a really good sign that people are accumulating. You want to see like a double or a triple bottom. But remember, we're on a very short time frame here, and there is the chance that, you know, even if this thing keeps going up, and let me just do something here to where we don't have to have the fibs on the chart. So here's your support line on the 786, and you can name it whatever you want, you know, bullish above, support, whatever it is. I mean, it's such early price action on this, you don't know what's going to happen yet on the macro view. So this thing could come up more, and I'm not saying it's going to, but even if it does this, it can still come all the way down here. And I know that seems strange, but that's how these structures work. You know, the market makers, they want to push price up and get a bunch of people to buy because they need people to buy their bags, right? You know, they accumulated way down here and they need somebody to buy their bags. So they just keep pushing price up. And then as price comes up, they're taking profits, you know, all the way up. And then price comes all the way down, they buy back. You know, you need to be like smart money. You need to buy the bottom. You know, don't be buying when it's expensive up here. And that's the mentality of a lot of traders, you know, even people that, you know, influencers that people would consider good at trading. They'll actually buy a big green candle. And I don't subscribe to that theory. I don't like doing that because you could get trapped up here and be a bag holder. So a lot of the plays that you see me post, like Agent here, which has made a pretty good move, you know, I'm looking for this. I really would love to see, like, you know, 1 touch, 2 touch, and this is probably what's going on with this current token that we were just looking at. It's going to have some kind of move like this, and then it's going to come back down. And then once enough history happens with this token that we were looking at here, EOS, it's going to look something like this, where it had a big push up, it comes back down, creates another low, and then it, you know, it could even come under the low that it had before. I don't know. But then I know this kind of looks weird compared to the token we're talking about, but you know, if you eliminate that, you know, it could look something like this, where it creates a lower low there and then establishes a new base. Let's see, but yeah, Agent is up quite a bit, I believe. I think we called it somewhere here. Well, you know, it's only a 2x so far, so not bad. But you can see, what'd you say? Let me see it again. Yeah, right here. I think that's about where I called it, somewhere in here. 760K market cap. So I put it in our chat for, where's it at? This channel right here, the Soul Train channel. Whenever that happened, that's when I posted it. And then at that point also, the MACD was turning up. So, you know, extra conviction right in that area, had extra conviction on the hourly chart. So we were looking at a higher time frame. So that's part of the problem with looking at higher time frames is you're going to get in after the first pump, and that's fine. I mean, you know, you're being safe, so that's good. But you can clearly see, like if we marked this, I just want to show the relationship between a higher time frame, and we looked at the 4 hour. You know, there actually was a turn up there, so you would have been pretty lucky to get in there, but you know, that's harder to see. But if you went down to like the 5 minute and looked at that same area, you could have gotten in much earlier, I think. Yeah, you could have already been in before this pump, but it's hard to do. I mean, look how many times this one just like faked out up and down. It's very difficult to play lower time frames on an older token. So really what you want to look for is support areas. You know, if you got a support area here where it's touched many times, you know, maybe you're looking at this and you miss this play. Of course, this line wouldn't have been there at the time, but maybe you're looking at this, it had a double bottom, you missed this whole play, and just wait. You know, draw your line here at the double bottom. You know, it could front run it. It could end up not touching the line again, and that's fine. You know, it's a higher low, but if it gets near the line, just go ahead and take a chance and buy it. You might get a really nice pump out of it. And that's just disregarding MACD. You don't even need MACD in this case, although it might help if you were to see a turn up as it gets close to this, you know, to this level. I just think it's really market manipulation more than anything. I mean, all these exchanges are connected. It's a pretty deep rabbit hole. I mean, not a lot of people are going to agree with what I say there, but I believe that all the exchanges are connected. The same algo tends to run the same, the charts. I mean, that's why you see a lot of charts that match each other, right? They all have kind of the same fractal pattern. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, this is just playing it smart, right? I mean, we're being patient. And that's what happens. The market or crypto or stocks or whatever, it rewards the patient. Either the patient person that's buying the bottom or the patient person that is willing to hold on to their bags until the top of the macro market, So a lot of people don't have patience. If we think about humans in general, people are very emotional. They haven't really worked to control their emotions. It's tough to get to that point, but as you gain experience and I think there's another mentality level to think about, and this is more philosophical in a way, but it is important to be, I made a post from Kobe Bryant the other day, and my ultimate goal with that post was to say that most of the people that are very good or have made a lot of money with crypto, they just don't care. They don't let anything bother them. They've been through the trenches enough and blown up their account enough that they understand that they can make it again. So if you have the tools that we're learning here, you can always make that money again, even if you blow up your whole account. And I'm not saying to be risky. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you have a mentality that nothing phases you. It's the stoicism mentality that Marcus Aurelius had, the great Roman emperor. So that's very important, to not let emotions sway you one way or the other. And then that way you're making very good decisions based on, almost like if you were reacting as a robot or as AI, which is tough. I mean, we all have emotions regardless, no matter how much we've been through. So yeah, this one continues to push up. Eventually it will come back down, and I suspect that it will, find another level here somewhere and pump up again. But, once it has a pretty good move, these do tend to take a while to, go sideways before they make another move. But I think this was a really good example of a signal that worked out perfect. And they're not all going to work out perfect like this, of course. But, we do have a lot of very good signals. It's just that you have to get to a point once you've practiced this enough. Maybe you don't want to input any money, and that's fine. Just paper trade it for a while. But you'll have to get to a point at some point in your trading career where you're just like, I don't care what happens. I'm just going to follow the rules, and I'm going to see if it works. I'm not going to let emotions rule over me. I'm just going to try it. And you're going to make some small losses, but you're also going to make some really big wins, especially if you stick to the rules. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think we answered all those questions. And it's good to see everybody here, by the way. I appreciate y'all taking the time. I know it's, y'all don't have a lot of time to be doing this. You probably got busy lives as well. Wow, this one's really pumping, isn't it? That's crazy. Yeah, there you go. So I did want to show this. I was kind of waiting for a big wick. So I think that this is a big warning signal if you see a big wick like this. I'm not saying it has to stop here, but it's obvious. When you see a wick, automatically in your mind you say, okay, I've got a big whale that has an auto sell that is in this location. And if I don't see price break this, if I don't see price get back above this wick soon, maybe it consolidates for a little while. But if I don't see it happen within the next, 15 minutes to 30 minutes, then it's going to tell me that this is probably the local top for now. Let's see here. And all this commentary I'm giving on this is very easy for me right now because I have no skin in the game, right? I have there's no risk for me. I'm just telling you what it looks like in real time. So it is more difficult when you've actually got money in the game, for sure. I'm just going to kind of see what happened here because it is interesting to see this. I mean, another thing you can do is say, okay, since this wick happened back here and we've got another rejection that temporarily happen there, I can say that this is my support line. I can get rid of this. This is kind of like the very bottom support. And you could even call this your bullish above. And we'll just call this like current resistance. And so looking at this from a logical perspective, we would say, you know, if we can't get above this resistance line, then this thing's coming back to the bullish line at minimum. If we do see a couple candles hold here, then, you know, maybe we're fine to continue holding. But just remember, just like with Bitcoin, I think we talked about this at the very beginning on the recording, you know, Bitcoin tends to do this where it'll, you know, break above a resistance level, and then it'll come back down and reject it, and then come all the way back down, and then, you know, eventually move back up. So this could be a move that this one makes, since there's a lot of resistance right here currently. But another thing you want to watch for is if it does hold this line, and you start to see something like this, just like we saw down here, you know, like a bull flag. You know, so maybe this is, as far as a micro Elliott wave pattern, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, which the 4 could actually come back down to here now that I'm thinking about it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then still push up one more time. But I mean, clearly, if you get a cross down here, the safest thing that you can do is just go ahead and take your profit. You know, who cares if the play doesn't work out for you again? Who even cares to get into this play again if you don't want to? I mean, this is starting to taper down here, so it could be a possibility. But I mean, right, we get so many alerts. You know, who cares if you even enter this one again? Or you could just save it for when it comes back down to support. You go find you another play, you know, or just take the day off. You know, you've made a really good win. Enjoy your day, maybe reward yourself somehow. But as you get more comfortable with these tools and the way to use them, then you could just log on and make $500 in a day and log off if you want to. But what I want to get across is that there's always going to be plays for you. You know, don't worry about it if you miss one. Don't worry about it if you've taken profit and you're concerned that, you know, that it's going to keep going up. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Now, if you want to hold longer term, and that's something we haven't really touched on much, but if you want to hold longer term on these Degen plays, understand that it's risky because we never know when the dev is just going to shut the project down and it's done. But, you know, sometimes you will catch that 50x move. It's just that there's not many of those plays. You know, there's maybe, I don't know, a handful of them, 10 or so, maybe 20 within a full week that we see. And sometimes you'll get like 100x, 200x, but it's tough to hold through that whole thing, right? Because you're going to have, you know, the MACD is going to come up here, it's going to cross down, it's going to consolidate, it'll pump again. You know, the overall move for something like this is going to look much different over a longer period of time, where it might do something like this, and then eventually it has a really, really big move. But you can play these ranges, by the way. Yeah. No, I mean, unfortunately, there's no way. We get very few of those, by the way, and that's kind of what I meant, that you are going to take some losses. Unfortunately, we can't predict when, you know, a project is just going to be nothing. You know, it starts and then, you know, has a little pump like this, and then it dumps all the way down. I can't explain why that happens necessarily, because the wallets that we track, they tend to get in early and they tend to hold for a while usually. But sometimes they just abandon the project for some reason, and I don't know why. Say that one more time. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the way. Yeah, I think that should be the first thing you always check for sure, and it's easy to forget to do that. So yeah, check that. Check the Twitter. You know, like if I was to look at this one here real quick, I want to see. Okay, so there's 5 smarts following. By the way, if you want to be able to see this view, for free, Moni has an extension that you can get, and I think it's well, it depends on what browser you're using, but all you would do is you would type in what would it be? Type in your search, Google, whatever you use, something like Moni Discover extension, and it should bring up, you know, one for your browser. But what this does is it will show you how many smarts are in, smart followers, and it'll show you the score. So typically when we see a score of about 100, that means that the project has a decent chance of being longer term. This one still could be, you know, it could just be early. But one thing I do is I go through here, I see if it looks like a legit project. I see if the dev has maybe doxed themselves, which is good to see. I look to see if they've got a white paper or a GitHub, something like that. Just understand that 99% of these I really do feel like are fake projects. And I know that seems like a high number, but if you approach it from that standpoint, then you know you're already setting up the idea in your mind that you want to take profits sooner. You know, like I would have definitely taken profits here on this cross down because I don't want to, you know, suffer any drawdown here. But I mean, what if they just drop this project at this point? Because you have to think in terms of them. If you're the token creator, that means you got in way down here. Actually, you can see right here. Look where the dev bought right here. On GMGN, it'll actually show you. So the dev bought in this first block when it was created. So imagine how many tokens they got, even if they just bought like 3 SOL worth. You know, they have so much more supply than somebody that bought up here, even though this person spent a lot more money. So just think in those terms that once the price hits a certain level where they've made like $100,000 or whatever, you know, what do they care? They're just going to dump on people sometimes. And I'm not saying that when a dev sells, you know, if it says dev sells or something, I'm not saying that the project is just done at that point, because there are definitely projects where the dev will sell early, but they'll continue to develop the project. And it probably means that they've got, you know, other wallets with tokens in them. But you just want to see activity, right? I mean, activity is the main thing we want to see when we look at things like that. Okay, let's see. We got another question. How do you treat sideways action with low volume? Better to stay out? In reference to you mentioning double, triple bottoms might be good at, yeah, for sure. So hang on, let me turn this off so I can see who's talking. Okay. Yeah, sideways action is the only thing that no indicator or any person can predict. There's no way to predict sideways action. You know, like even engineering robo AI, which we talk about often here, and we'll talk about it later with the long-term plays, it does a great job of getting you in and out. Like, you know, even though this was sideways action, you took a small loss here, but it kept you out just in case there was a longer downtrend. This was kind of sideways action pretty much here as well, but overall it's trending up, although it did have a little dip here, but this is still a higher low from these lows. But see right here how this kept you out of a long downtrend, but then it got down here into the sideways action, and then, you know, it kind of faked you out a bunch. There's just no way to, even with the best indicator, which I believe that, you know, engineering robo is, there's no way to stay out of or to predict what's going to happen with price action like that. All you can really do in that case is, like you said, who was it talking? Alternative. That's a cool way to spell it. Yeah, the only thing you can do in that case is try to find your support level or find your resistance level. And then if you see sideways action in that area, you know, near a support level, then you want to be accumulating, you know, double, triple bottoms, that's where you want to be accumulating. And then on the flip side, if you see a lot of sideways MACD or sideways price action where you feel like there was previous resistance at, then you want to be considering taking profit there. And really, you would have already been out here on this MACD curl down. And then as this curls down, by the way, you want to watch to see if it's going to hold this midline. You know, maybe it'll have another pump here, because this could be like an Elliott wave. Let me see if I can find the tool here. I don't use Elliott wave much, but I can just show you in general what you would be looking for. Where is that? You can see how little I use it. I don't even know where to find it. Okay. So 1, 2, yeah, this could be 3, 4, could come down to here. And then, you know, maybe you have a 5 moved to there or something, and then it has a larger correction. But, you know, this could already be 5 as well. You know, maybe this was the 4 because it came back down and touched the 1. So I really don't know. In this case, I probably wouldn't be interested in it because I know that I can get a much better price down here if it was to hit it here. And if for some reason I just miss this play completely, I know there's plenty more plays to have. That's the beauty of our 24/7 signals that we've created, is that you don't have to wait hours and hours for a signal, right? However, you know, there is a little bit more risk involved in that because, you know, the higher the volume of signals we have coming in, the higher chance there is that there's going to be a bad play mixed in there somewhere. Okay. And, you know, you can check this 3x alpha follows bot sometimes too. And I think somebody was asking about Pippin earlier, and if we could have found that pump. I forgot somebody asked that. So Pippin did show that many smart wallet or smart followers on X did follow it, even though it's already got a ton of smart followers. Usually if you see big jumps in followers like this, that means price is getting ready to pump or it has already pumped. So if we, you can anytime take this contract address, paste it in here in the search, and you can see when the signal first showed up today. Let me just see if I can find it. Let's see, that would have been 11:10, so that's too far back. So here we are, I think right here, no, that's 12:1. What is today? Oh yeah, 1:10 is what we're looking at. 1:4. Anyway, it looks like today, okay, yesterday there was some followers jumping into it. 233. Okay, so 233 yesterday. If we go and look at the chart for Pippin, and we're done with this one pretty much. I mean, you can see it cross down. It could curl. Well, you know what? I'll just keep that up just in case we want to come back to it. So I'm going to paste Pippin in here, and we'll just see what it's showing, and we'll look at what happened yesterday. I thought somebody said this one was pumping. Maybe they just meant this move right here. So if I'm looking at a brand new chart like this, I'm going to the highest time frame I can find. Maybe this is the pump they were talking about on the 9th. So I'm going to the highest time frame I can, and you can clearly see, just like we were talking about. Now this one's a little bit more difficult because the price action was just like slowly trending down. I mean, this would have been your first support area right there. And you could have drawn this and said, okay, well, I'm not going to get back in until it gets back above that line because that's my support line. And so you could have entered here. You would have been out here, and maybe you took a small loss. Maybe you didn't take your profit. And then you would have entered here again once it got back above. So that's one way that you can do that. And then on the fib, it should match up roughly with the 786. It's a little bit higher. It's not right on that line there. You could have went ahead and just set your support line there though if you wanted to. And then it would have just been higher up to give you more conviction to wait for that break above. And if it breaks really hard like that, just wait for a pullback. You know, you could have bought somewhere in there. You don't have to wait for the line to touch. But I mean, this is clear that you had a really strong move out of an area that was the 786 that was a lot of resistance previously. So once it was support, broke down the support, rejected, broke above, and now it turns into support again. And I'm going to show later on the long-term plays how this is showing up currently, or will be soon on some of these alts, the longer-term alts. I think that's right on that. Yeah, I don't know. You can play around with it and just see, you know, maybe you would want to only use candle bodies, or, you know, just kind of see where most of the, on these longer term plays, where most of the support ends up. This seems pretty good. So that's where most of the cluster of wicks were right there. It's not going to be perfect, but just play around with it. You'll start to get a hang of how you want to look at it. Okay, let's just see if there's any other questions here. Oh yeah, Imran, can you mute yourself? I think you got some background noise there. Is it Imran? I can mute him. Okay, there we go. Sam said, can you describe MACD blue and orange lines and the relationship? Yeah, so you got a fast line and you've got a slow line. And you can change the colors, by the way. Well, let's go back to the other one we were looking at. So I'm going to open just the MACD up so you can see it well. The blue line is the fast line. Whenever you get a cross of the fast over the slow, which is the orange one, then that is your buy signal. When you get a cross of the fast below the slow one, that's your sell signal. And you can change this if you want. Like, for example, you could change it to like 1221, which is a method that Tatiana likes to use, which is sort of similar like the EMA, but it does give a little bit different information versus an EMA. You can change the signal length to give you a quicker signal or a slower signal. To be honest with you, I haven't really tested this much, but you can see how your histogram is growing back here the lower you go. So if you can't really see, well, we don't want to go that low, do we? I think this is not bad. That looks okay. You don't want to have too many areas where it's crossing, too often. So, maybe you do want to edit this for yourself based on what you like the most. But, the histogram did show up a little bit more back here. And then if we go back to, how do I get back to that? There we go. If we go back to it, then, our cross up was right about where our alert happened. And our cross down, there's a temporary cross down there, and then the real cross down ended up happening there. So somebody, if you had been trading this in real time, made a lot of money. Maybe you got out somewhere here, made a 2x on that first move, and then maybe you got back in on the cross up and you made another, where's it at? I mean, even being conservative, you made a 2x here and you made a 2x on this move as well. And this looks like an inverted head and shoulders possibly. So, this could be a 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I would have expected it to come down more, and maybe it will still. But yeah, personally, I wouldn't mess with this. If I had already made a 2x or something, you really have to decide which type of trader are you. Do you want to take the risk to hold these longer? Just put a little bit in and hope that it goes to 50x. That's one strategy. Or do you want to be a quicker trader where you just want to make your 2 to 3x, get out, move to the next play, since we have so many plays. But remember, as long as these two lines are above the midline here, between the green and the red histogram, it is technically bullish because it's above the 50 line on the RSI. But you do have kind of a descending, let me get rid of this. Try to draw yourself some lines if you see some patterns here where, this is kind of a rejection area, it seems like. It's not perfect. I mean, you could take these wicks instead. Something like that. Just be experimental. You may see stuff that I don't see. I may see stuff you don't see. And that's why I think it's important for us to communicate like this. And I know Tatiana wants to see us do this more, where we get in here and we chat and help each other find plays. What is the thing the mind share portion of crypto is what really helps elevate groups like ours, is that, we're all seeing something different, right? And we can all make money together. I mean, there's no reason why we can't. But yeah, this one could have a fifth leg up. I can't really tell yet. There's a cross up right there, so maybe it will. But I would have been fine with this. I would have been happy with that. Okay, insights into, well, let me see. Can you give a rough estimate, time frames? You use projects with different lifetime, market cap, new stuff. You have to use 1 5 minute, but when do you switch? Yeah, I switch as soon as I can. I talked about this in the video earlier, this is being recorded, by the way. You can go back and watch it. I switch to the highest time frame I possibly can. So if we're looking at something like Pippin, well, actually, I'm already on the 4 hour here, but this is what you want to see out of a token that you're wanting to accumulate, is you want to accumulate the lows here after a move. So these are, lower risk plays where, again, if I just wait for that first bottom to be in and then it starts moving up, then maybe I just mark that first bottom and now I'm accumulating as this is happening here. And sure, it went down a little bit, but if you're being patient and it seems like a project that's going to keep going, they're active, people, the mind share of CT, of Twitter, if it seems like people are really engaged with the project or like the meme, whatever it is, then you're fine to just keep accumulating. This is actually, people like Crash that played Brett, this is how they made millions of dollars. He thinks he's going to make, I think, 11 million on Brett when it's all said and done, and maybe he will. But this is the only way to make huge profits, is you have to accumulate the lows before the huge move like this. And I don't remember, what did we say on this one? Was it the 9th? Yeah, the 9th was, well, maybe the 8th. So were we able to find this move? Possibly. Again, what you'd want to do, where was I looking at? Oh yeah, the 3x alpha follows. This was yesterday at 2:33. There it is, the 8th, 4:52. I'm just trying to see if we had some followers starting to jump in, like some Smart X followers. Yeah, Spider Crypto jumped into it on the 8th at 4:52. Well, I mean, didn't jump into it, but he followed the the Twitter account. Looks like that was after the part of the move. Right here somewhere. Yeah, I mean, he caught it as it was still moving, so that was good. So about 75 million. It was about a 3x from there. So that's my point. If you start seeing, like on any of these channels, if you start seeing these smarts start to climb up on our Moniac Smart Alpha, that means it's just like with smart wallets, right? If you start to see multiples where it's jumping, like maybe there's 3-4 people that are jumping in, following the account on X, that's going to tell you that price is either about to pump or it is currently pumping, and it could be a breakout. So, it's just an alert that, hey, look at this project. It might be one you want to get into. And then when you go to the chart, what you want to see is something like this. Find your support level, maybe draw you some kind of trend line and see if it breaks above it. And then usually there's some kind of retest. You can get in at that point and, hopefully it moves up for you. But also use the MACD. So in this case, maybe we missed all this price action here, and that's fine. There was a cross down there. We wouldn't be in this case, but it did get back above the MACD midline there, and it almost always does a retest before the next push. So your cross up right here, that was a perfect place to get in. You would have made like a 3x or something. And of course, this is, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying we would have actually seen this, but it's possible we did. I'd have to go back and look at the signals and everything. Insights into Pareto. Okay, yeah, good question. I don't think I've looked at that one in a while. So this will come full circle as far as everything we've talked about in this video so far. Now we're going to look at one that, oh wow, this one took off, didn't it? Yeah, so number one, good news is we have enough history here, and history is everything. I mean, even if we're just looking at human history, if we look back, we can keep from repeating our same mistakes, right? So same thing with crypto. We're able to look at the highest time frame and get a feel for the trend. So trend is up clearly. Both MACD lines are above the midline, which is basically the bottom of these green candles right here on the histogram. There's no cross down. So now we're just going to start slowly working down. Man, that's crazy. I think we called this one here. So this is a 5x so far, I believe. So I guess what you're asking is when do we get out? Yeah, so this is about a 5 to 6x now. Well, this is what we just talked about a minute ago, right? Sometimes when we see a big wick to the upside like this, there's somebody with a ton of supply and they want to get out. Maybe they've still got more supply. So if you have Nansen, in this case, you could just grab the CA, go to Nansen, and verify that there's still quite a few, smart money in. I think that would be one of the first steps as far as making sure that you're taking profit in a good area. But you really don't have to have this. I think it definitely helps. It gives you more conviction as far as whether the top, the temporary top is in. And here you go, last 24 hours, there's a lot of profit taking. Here's a huge whale that got completely out. 107K, here's 35K. So this person still holds a little bit. Currently you have 22 smart holders. But yeah, I mean, if you're seeing some red here, that means you definitely got some whales that are taking profits. And you got a big wick here. There's another signal that, maybe this is the top. And you say, okay, this is my resistance. Now I'm going to start going down to, different time frames and see if I can gather more information. But clearly, we were accumulating at the right place. I just didn't have enough conviction. I should have added a lot more here because we did have a double bottom. And you get your first pump and then you come down, you create a support line. You would have drawn your line right here at the first bottom because it pumped out of that. So now this is your local bottom. It touched it again. You could have been accumulating here. It broke out of the bullish area, which I drew that myself. I'd have to find out how I did that. Probably with fibs if I had to guess. It's close to the fib, but you can see the 786 is kind of right there at that support line. This blue line here was the support. I think maybe the 618 is close to where I was putting the bullish line, but as soon as it got above that, we knew that there was a big breakout. You had another opportunity to buy right here. Now we're going to go to the lower time frames and see how that all played out and how you could have done this in real time. Number one, on the hourly chart, this was a cross down. You would not have been in this case. MACD was tapering up to green. When you see something like this, take notice because it could mean that your fast MACD line, the blue line, is starting to cross over the slow one, the red one, or the orange one. And then you would have taken a position there. You're going to be a little bit, remember the higher time frame you go, the slower the signal is. So you're going to get in later. And that's okay in this case because it pumped and then it created, it touched this bottom one more time. So it created another opportunity for you to get in. Let's see, then you had some sideways action. This is the hardest part of it, is that if you get some sideways price action, it's going to fake you out. So, if you were playing safe, you would have broken even here or taken a small loss. But if you're holding long term, then you're just accumulating every time it touches this line. Or you're just waiting, for it to touch 2 or 3 times and then you're getting in. Or you could wait for a bigger, breakout. It just really depends on how you want to approach it. But, maybe you were in here as it was getting closer to the midline. And here you go, break above, it has one more retest and then it breaks out bigger. So remember, anytime it gets above the midline right there, you're typically going to have some kind of retest. It's not usually going to just take off because market makers want to create FOMO. They want people to buy right here so they can get out of their positions, and then they want to create fear. So, here's FOMO at the top, here's fear, FOMO, fear, FOMO, fear. And I guess in a way here as well, there's, FOMO at the top and fear here, but, here's a lot of FOMO for you currently. If it can't get above this line, then, not great. But here on the hourly chart, of course, the lines are pretty wide apart. You'd have no idea if it was time to get out yet. So in this case, you just have to start going, keep going down and see what you see. I don't really see anything here yet on the 15-minute chart. Remember, another way that you can do it is, if the histogram was to keep doing this and like create lower highs, this would be a bearish divergence. So as price goes up, where's my tool? As price goes up and gets more vertical, and you're getting lower highs on the histogram, which is these green bars right here, that's a signal that your top's coming in. 5-minute, you did get a cross down. But again, if you're a long-term holder, all you really care about is higher highs, higher lows. So you've got a higher low from this one. Here's a higher low. You got higher highs coming in here. This is market structure. So I think it probably could touch this line again. I don't know if it'll reject there again, but it might have one more push up. But admittedly, it's very difficult to get out at the very top. So the only thing you can really do is be okay that you're going to get out within 20 to 30% of the top. And that's still extremely good, especially after you've made a 5X. But if you're wanting to hold long term, then you just got to decide that you're going to keep holding it. It's really up to you. In this case, I would wait for some kind of, on the 15-minute chart, I would wait for some kind of, lower high on these lines. Maybe these lines do something like this, where it creates a lower high right there. That's also a signal, after the cross down. So hopefully that all makes sense. Tough to do in real time though. Did you already look at RM9000? Might have missed the first part. Yeah, I didn't really look at that one. Hang on, I've got it here. Okay, yeah, so another really good example. We have called this one. I'm hoping that this was a breakout and a retest, or not a breakout retest necessarily because it didn't come all the way down to here. But I'm hoping this is just like a front run and then it pushes up really soon here. But you can clearly see, we've got 3 touches here and we've got higher lows. Now, the only thing I don't know is if this comes down one more time. There's no way I can predict that. It's just I'm hoping that, let's actually, I kind of went about that the wrong way. I need to teach you the way that you actually need to do it, which is go to your highest time frame first. And clearly we have a curl up here on the 4 hour, which is a good sign for us. Now it is slightly bearish still because it's below the 50 line, but we still have our cross up and that's fine. You could even go to a daily chart possibly. Yeah, just remember the higher time frame you go, the more it's going to lag for you. But here's another thing we just looked at where we said if our 2 MACD lines cross above the midline, there's usually going to be a retest at some point, because this midline is kind of your support. So we had a move up. It was the first pump out of all of this consolidation. And now we're getting a retest. And if I had to guess, just based on the way that market makers like to do it, this will keep going like this, which means our lines will start curling up as well. But this is a daily chart, so this stuff takes a little while to play out. Okay, so yeah, just use your 4 hour, use your 15 minute, or use your hourly 15 minute. Try to get the whole picture, but start at the very top first. Use your highest time frame that you can see first, because you want to see trend direction. And then you can go down and find your entry or your exit point, depending on what's happening. But I think this looks good. Yeah, actually this does look really good to me, just based on the pattern. Get rid of this. I kind of cut my teeth on fractal trading. And Tatiana and Rod, they'd probably laugh at that because we were all in the same group at one point. This was about, 4 or 5 years ago. And we had a lot of fun. We learned a lot in that group, how to trade with fractals. But fractals can really hurt you as well. If you think you see something and you go heavy into a token and then all of a sudden it comes back down to touch support one more time, well, now you're fearful and you're thinking, well, what if it drops even lower? And then you get out of your position and then it pumps. And it's just, it can really mess with your mind. So this does look good to me. I think it is going to pump, but I can't guarantee it. I am in it currently. When I made the alert, I was already in it. So, sometimes I think that I see something and I'm wrong. Maybe I see something like this and I thought that, it was going to turn around, or maybe I thought it was going to turn around here. So market maker price action can also fake me out as well. I'm not immune to it. But, to play it safe, try to get your entry once you find your bottom. If you got 2 bottoms here, your double bottom, next time it touches it, just jump in. Hopefully it'll work out for you. But of course, use the MACD rules as well. This could have told you that it was trending up as price was coming down. So that is a bullish divergence, even on a higher time frame right there. MACD was trending to the upside while price was coming down. So, try to look for stuff like that. And if you don't understand bullish and bearish divergences, there's plenty of videos out there that you can find. They explain them pretty well. Okay, 1 hour volume seems pretty low for RM9000, but I did reach the same conclusion. Yeah, I'm not really worried about volume, to be honest with you. My goal, volume is usually going to be low at a support level. My goal is to accumulate cheaply, because if you look at tokens like Bobo, let me just show you here. So this is one of the ones that Crash got into early. And here's where he got in, way down here. He was willing to take a chance, and it's not even this. I'm not even talking about this. I'm talking about this. he was willing to take a chance down here at support when it was still like 500K market cap, and he was willing to hold. But there is a caveat to that. He had strong conviction that the play had some life in it because it was the opposite to Pepe the Frog. So Pepe the Frog is basically the bullish meme for crypto, and then Bobo at this time, which was, it was very forward thinking of him, which is really what I would consider an influencer. That's the true definition of it. It's somebody that can see something like this happening well before it happens. So not many people even cared that he was taking this position at the time. And that's really the point that you want to be accumulating when nobody really cares about it. But you have to be willing to hold for a while, of course. And if we use one of our long-term plays as an example, nobody cares. This is one of Tatiana's favorite tokens here. Although it is a risky one, she will tell you that. Nobody cares about persistence here. And it looks ugly, right? I mean, the chart definitely looks ugly. But we feel like the bottom might be close. And if that's the case, then you're getting in when nobody else is getting in. And she did make a post in her alert channel about this, by the way. Okay, so I think that's all the questions. I don't want to take I think we covered the Degen plays pretty well. So, it's up to y'all if y'all still want to stick around. I'm going to go over long-term plays now. I'm going to do a different recording for it. So let me just stop the recording on this one. Did somebody say something? Or were you just clearing your throat, maybe? No, you're all right, man. I'm good. How you doing? Okay. Let's see. So anybody that missed the recording on that, on the Degen side of it, I'll get it posted as soon as I can. And we're going to now go into the long-term plays. Let's see here. And I don't know, Tatiana, did you have anything you want to say before I end this recording? Maybe you do. Okay. Thank you for joining, by the way. It's good to have you here. So let's start.